Hi, good morning and good afternoon. It's 9 o'clock Pacific time, so we'll go ahead and get started. Today's audio is being broadcast through your computers, and we are excited to have a conversation today about 3 ways Cotap improves productivity with customer success. We're honored to have Brian Murray here with us today. He's the VP of Customer Experience at Cotap. And he's going to go ahead and start the presentation by showing the ways that customer success technology has improved their organization. And then he'll pass the baton to Anal Patel, our Director of Product Marketing, who will show a little bit more details about Totango. And without further delay, I'd like to pass it over to Brian. Brian?
Thank you, Christine. It's great to be here. Looking forward to having a good conversation, and thanks everyone for taking time out of your day to join me to talk a little bit about productivity and customer success. So we're going to actually get started a little unconventionally, and what I'd ask everyone to do is either from their mobile browser on their phone or from their browser on their desktop, if you can all go to this URL, tiny.cc, and then today's date. And we're actually going to do something a little fun during this presentation, and it'll involve Cotap. So this is actually a direct link to a Cotap conversation that we can have while I'm going through this presentation. So I'll give everyone about a minute to go to this link, and once you go through and confirm your email address, then you'll be dropped into a Cotap group where we can chat during the conversation. So it looks like a few people are joining already. So this is great. Okay. So while you guys are joining, I'll give a quick background on Cotap. In a nutshell, Cotap is a secure messaging app for work teams. There's a pretty interesting history with our company. Most of us came from another company called Yammer, which was acquired by Microsoft. And after that acquisition, a group of us were noticing a shift in the way people were communicating. There was less interaction from our computer and more interaction happening from our phones. And if you look at how we communicate in our personal lives, that's certainly true. I think iMessage, Facebook Messenger, WeChat, WhatsApp, Line, the list goes on of these messaging apps that people are turning to communicate with their friends and family, and it makes sense that that style of communication is brought into the workplace. So that's why we created Cotap. You can think of Cotap as WhatsApp for work. It's very straightforward. So connecting people in a more seamless way, whether they're at their computer or they're at their desk. And it's an interesting business and an interesting topic for this webinar because it's all about communication. It's all about creating relationships between people. And obviously, in the customer success business, that's a focus of ours. When I started at Yammer, I was a CSM and worked with many of our largest customers there. So very familiar with this type of work and the challenges that we face as part of this. So someone just asked in the Cotap group, should we ask questions here? Yes, please do ask your questions in Cotap. We'll answer them there. There's also a chat dialogue in the ReadyTalk application, but go ahead and shoot your questions in the Cotap group. Okay, so everybody's talking about mobile, but the interesting thing is not many people are using a lot of mobile tools for work. We pretty much do all of our computing in our personal lives from our phones, but at work, many people are still chained to their desktop. So a few interesting stats I wanted to share. The first is that 81% of us are already texting our coworkers for work-related communications. And that may seem sort of unsurprising because you probably text your coworkers every once in a while. But what is surprising is the reasons why. So I think we turn to our phones to send a text message often, but I don't think many people kind of dig into why is it that we prefer this style of communication, what's it doing that other things like email aren't doing. And here's a few good reasons. The first is that the average text message response time is 90 seconds. The average email response time is 90 minutes. So this is 60 times faster than sort of the de facto communication of our working lives, which is generally email. And the reason for this is there's actually a few different components of this. The first is that it's mostly about the recipient. So when you send a text message, unlike an email, the recipient gets a push notification on their phone. That means wherever they are, they know that they just got a message from someone. And the second part of it is the composition speed. So a text message is much more similar to speech than an email. And I can go on and on about this kind of retroactive composition style versus a real-time composition style. But there's a lot of interesting factors here. And actually that concept of the push notification applies to really any mobile tool, including the Totango app, which our team uses, and I'll get into a little bit later during this presentation. Now the next stat is that, over here, we are looking at our phones 150 times a day. That means throughout our day, we are pulling our phones out of our pocket 150 times, whether that's to check the weather, whether it's to check the time, whether it's to a map to another location. Yeah, exactly. So what we'll cover today is a few of the key focus areas for my team and how we're improving customer success, the entire customer experience, which I actually include everything from lead generation to sales to customer success to renewals, and also how we work with our product team to make sure that the experience that we're creating for our customers is solid both from a relationship perspective and from a product perspective, which is really important in our business. Let's start with freemium conversion. So I bet at least a few of you on the call have a product that has either a free trial component or a pure freemium design, meaning that people can use your product for free indefinitely, and then they can upgrade to a paid version. So an implication of this model, this is how we designed Yammer, it's how we designed Cotap. An implication of this model is that you start your relationship with your users and prospects very, very early on, and you need to work towards providing enough value to get them to upgrade to the premium version to make them a customer. So the freemium conversion is all about a leaky bucket. I'm sure everybody's heard this analogy before, but it truly is a good way to think about how we work and where we should be prioritizing our time. So in your funnel, and again, this applies to both customer success and sales, what you will have is a number of people that come through. So whether you get them from any sort of lead gen, if they come to you through inbound, and some of those prospects will convert to customers and some won't. Some will fall out of the bucket. Similarly, on the customer success side, you will retain most of your customers, but you will lose some as well. So no matter what part of your business you're looking at, this concept or analogy of the leaky bucket applies. Now the trick is, or the focus for everyone should be not to scramble around trying to plug every single hole as quickly as you can. What you should do is audit your funnel and determine what the biggest leaks are, what the smallest leaks are, and then also determine which of those leaks can be most quickly plugged, so to speak. So where can we improve customer retention, or where can we improve the churn of prospects, or improve the conversion of prospects to opportunities to customers. And what you then want to do is find out, okay, it's not about plugging the biggest holes, because maybe that takes a year's worth of effort. It's about doing a simple equation, which is what is the impact I can make divided by the effort that is required to improve that part of the funnel, and then prioritize the work you're doing accordingly. One great example of what we're doing today is, and this is all part of our freemium conversion process, is we use Totango. So this is a screenshot of our Totango instance, and I'm going to use the nifty highlighter here. What you can see is I'm on the Accounts tab, so this is a really useful part of Totango where you can create lists of users or accounts that fit certain criteria. So what we do is we take a look at, and you can see over here, 7-day champion assignment. We take a look at people who signed up for Cotap 7 days ago from today, who have sent more than 15 messages, and who have initiated more than 5 invitations. We've determined that that type of user is typically will be much more likely to be interested in talking to us and getting more involved and potentially moving down a more structured deployment cycle for Cotap. And so what I do is every day I go through this list. So you can see I've got my 7-day champions assignment list. We've got it into a category called daily assignments. And then I assign it to our different reps and our outbound AEs. So you can see there's Danny, Jack, Dan, Alex. So this is a great way where normally these people might, they may have been part of that leaky bucket. They may have just fallen out because nobody got in touch with them, even though they demonstrated these signals of being very interested and actively using Cotap. With Totango, we're able to identify who these people are, and I'm able to weave that into my process to assign them out to their appropriate reps so they can follow up with them, start a conversation. And this has been a really low-effort way for us to plug some of those holes in our funnel. So there's the Totango side, and as many of you know, we've also got Totango also has an integration with Salesforce. So when we do these assignments, we also have our account owners in Salesforce, and these are all connected. So you've got, if someone is an account owner in Salesforce, then in Totango, any active users, any of those champions will be automatically assigned to that account owner. So in this case, we're looking at a company called Center Group, which is a it's like the Westfield Mall's sister company based in Sydney, Australia. And they've got a lot of employees on their feet every day. They're loving Cotap. And one of the most important things about our Salesforce instance is our this Totango section. So at a glance, from any account, we can see not just the static details of that account, but the dynamic engagement information about the users in that account from Totango. So you can see everything from their engagement score, their health, the number of active users in the last 14 days. All of my tags from Totango get carried over into Salesforce. And by the way, keep the questions coming. I love seeing them come through Cotap. That's awesome. But in this way, we're able to, again, if we come back to that concept of a leaky bucket, now we've plugged some gaps on the identification of champion side, and then we've also plugged some gaps on when you're working in account in Salesforce, knowing where different accounts stand, what kind of attention they need, and so on. Okay. So I think any good webinar, it comes down to you're not going to remember everything, so what are the few key things to take away? So in this section, I would say the one important thing is to accept the fact that you're always going to have leaks. I've seen people kind of get overwhelmed by them and get a little anxiety about, it seems like we're churning customers everywhere, or it seems like we can't convert any prospects. That's the process of building a business is slowly and methodically identifying where your problems are and patching or repairing them. So you'll always have leaks, but focus your and your team's energy where the impact divided by the effort required is greatest. I think it was a lot of people, they make a mistake here in that they just kind of drive their attention towards what they think the biggest problems are. But if the biggest problems require like a year's worth of work, then that'll actually ruin your business. So that's one big takeaway that I would encourage everyone to heed. Okay, so that was kind of the pre-customer cycle. Now we'll move on to customer success and ways we can improve that aspect of it. And this is where I'd like to talk a lot about mobile and mobile technology. There's a really interesting concept here that I'll get to, but I'll start with one of my coworkers. He's a little older now, but this is Dan. And Dan had this is Dan's little sister that he's with. So back in the day, whenever this was, maybe like the late 80s, early 90s, Dan had his priorities straight. He was a very good older brother. But since then, and like many of us, Dan has just been absolutely consumed by his mobile phone. He's one of those people probably checking it more than 150 times a day. But so again, like most of us, our phone is kind of with us at all times. It is people. There's studies that show that people get anxiety if their phone is more than like 10 feet away from them. And in our working lives, the phone is very important because it helps us get things done faster. But that's only possible if you have the right tools available on your phone. One of the really nice things about Totango, and this is a more recent development, is they have their mobile app. And because of that app, Dan, who's a customer success manager on our team, he's able to do a lot more with Totango on his feet than he was able to before. Before he was, in order to take care of something, he may have had to go back to his computer, and that's a very interesting point because every single time you say, oh, I'll take care of that when I get back to my computer, it may seem like you're just wasting 30 or 40 minutes or however long it takes to get back to your computer, when in reality, those things compound on each other, and they create this drag on your team and your efficiency. When you can take care of things from your phone, you're a lot more efficient and can move a lot faster. So these are I'll show you two screenshots from our use of the Totango mobile app that I asked Dan to send along. This is an account profile. And again, it gives you a quick snapshot of the accounts that Dan manages, where they're at, how they're trending. And, it's good both when things are going well, when an account is blowing up or signing up a lot of new employees, and also when things aren't going so well. Maybe people aren't using it as fervently as they once were. Either way, it allows Dan to have that insight so he can take an action. So you've got the snapshot metrics, and then you could also see those trends. So if things look, if you have that week-over-week indicator that things are down, you can pop over to the Trends tab and see, how does this look relative to past months or the past year? And, okay, so you're Dan. You see this information. Let's say you see something that you want to follow up with a customer on. Well, the nice thing is about Cotap, again, it's a mobile app, and we communicate with all of our customers via Cotap. In fact, this webinar itself was coordinated via Cotap, which is pretty cool. I thank the Totango team for playing along with that and loving the questions that are coming through in the Cotap group today. So Dan's able to take this information and then immediately take action on it, whether he's on BART into work, whether he's waiting for his plane, or whether he's just out to get a coffee. And here's a fun example. We're working with, I had to blur out the name, but we're working with a number of different professional sports franchises. And we have these Cotap groups with them to coordinate, how they're using Cotap. This is an example of one of our customers using Cotap to coordinate some in-arena operations, which is pretty cool to see. But we're in constant communication, and the reason we're able to prioritize our work is because we have the insights from Totango at our disposal. Okay, so this is a little hyperbole, but famous last words, I'll take care of it when I get back to my computer. Again, anytime you think that, I would try to be very cognizant of it and think, how can I change that? How can I do this thing now where I don't have to depend on my computer in order to get it done? And the more that, and this is almost like a personal challenge, to be honest. When I started at Cotap, I tried to work without a computer for a week straight, and it was really, really hard. But it taught me to get a little bit more comfortable with my mobile calendar, a little bit more comfortable with, obviously, Cotap, which is very helpful. But the more that you can be independent of your computer, the more you'll be able to get done faster. Okay, the last section is on the product side. So I mentioned that at Yammer I started as a customer success manager. I actually ended up on the product team there after a few years and learned a lot about product development, product management, engineering, design. There's a lot that goes into it, and I would say the best companies out there have a very healthy relationship between product and engineering and the business side, whether that's marketing, sales, customer success. And the reason is we're dependent on each other. The functions are intertwined. When we're speaking to prospects or customers, we're representing this product that our engineers and designers and product managers are creating. So the more those two groups can be connected and have a healthy dialogue going, the better off you'll be. And there's this great analogy about product development and the psychology that goes behind it, and I think it also applies to the business side of companies, and that is Angry Birds. So you may not think that Angry Birds would be a good analogy for anything. It seems like kind of a mindless game that we're all addicted to. But actually, there's a nuance to it that is very applicable to all the work we do. If you think about what's happening in Angry Birds, you're repeating a very simple process over and over and over and over. And that is you kind of get ready, you kind of aim your little bird towards whatever target you're going after. You fire it. That's the exciting part. You get to see kind of what kind of damage that you've done or how many points you scored. And then what you immediately do next, and this is the most important part, is you adjust. So I actually pulled this from another presentation I saw years ago, but this concept of trying things and adjusting. And Angry Birds is a good analogy for that. But in our business, it's important to have this spirit of experimentation, being bold, trying things, not being sort of paralyzed by over-analyzing different components of your business. So if you think about, what are we trying and how are we learning from those things and adjusting, you'll always be doing better. And this also applies to that the funnel concept too, because you're always trying to improve things, and then you kind of evaluate what the outcomes were, and you adjust accordingly. So I wanted to bring up a real-world example of that and how we've done that from a product perspective and how that relates to customer success at Totango. And that is segmentation. So in Cotap, as you would probably guess, depending upon your business or the business of the customer, they will use Cotap differently. Namely, if a company is very small, they will use it very differently than a company that is very big. So this is kind of part of the product development process, is creating a hypothesis based on a limited set of information. So for Cotap, we were thinking, okay, we know these two types of businesses, so there's really a spectrum, but each side of the spectrum operates differently. But how are they different, and what can we do to make the experience good for each? Are there little customizations that we can do depending upon the size of the company? So our first hunch was, okay, in a small company, there's only a handful of people. Everybody's pretty well connected. It's not very often that people don't know each other. Now, having worked at Microsoft, where we had something like 90,000 employees, I also worked at Deloitte before that, which had like 150,000 employees. I can assure you that those big companies operate very differently, and people are essentially strangers. I have this funny story of my wife and I were on our honeymoon in Fiji, and on our way home, we were at the airport, and we ran into someone who was also working at Microsoft, also in the same building as I was, and I had never seen them or heard of them before. So suffice it to say that these big companies have tons of people, and not everybody knows each other. So how does that impact? That's sort of the hypothesis we had, is that there's more of a concept of being a stranger in a bigger company. So what can we do from a product perspective to make that a little easier? Well, in Cotap, there's this concept of a directory. And for all of those of you that were able to get into the Cotap conversation, you noticed that you authenticated with your work email address. And the nice thing about work email addresses is it is sort of this implicit categorization of users. So we know that everybody with the same email domain belongs to the same company. And therefore, we can put them into a people directory so they can find each other very easily. Now, going back to how we iterated on our product based on this hypothesis was we knew that in large networks, it was more important for new users to find people they knew than it was in small networks. And it makes sense, right? Like if you're in a 5-person company and you sign up for Cotap, you know instantly whether or not anybody else has tried Cotap. But when you're in a giant company, it's really important for you to see the people that are relevant to you, that have signed up. And there may be hundreds of people that have signed up, none of which you know. So what we did is for large companies, and we do this based on a proxy for user count that kind of gives us an insight into the size of the company, we prioritize that directory as part of the new user experience. And the way Totango was involved was we actually mapped this out using Totango. So we took a look at four networks that had fewer than 20 users. What were the patterns of new users? Like what were the activities that they were doing as part of their new user flow versus large networks, what were they doing? And the most striking thing was in large networks, the users were first going to the directory, and in small networks, users were first going to send a new message. So because of that behavior, what we did is for larger networks, we automatically drop people over into the people tab so they can see other people they're connected to. Okay, so the takeaway there is failure to experiment is failure. Aim, fire, adjust. Always be trying things, and you're not always going to have a successful outcome. And be honest about it. Just kind of recognize that your experiment didn't work and try something else. That's another failure I've seen in teams is that people are too worried about their image or their reputation or their position on the team that they don't want to admit that one of the experiments that they advocated for failed. And I would characterize that as a pretty toxic environment and one that executives should always be on the lookout for and squash as soon as they see it. So what you want is an environment where people encourage experimentation. You do it thoughtfully through, and that's why I mean be bold and experiment intelligently. Use tools like Totango to justify your experiments. And if they work, that's fantastic. If they don't, try again. Okay, so quick recap. You'll always have leaks. Focus your energy on where impact over effort is greatest. Try to eliminate desktop-dependent workflows. The more you're saying, hey, I'll get to it when I get back to the computer, the slower you're operating. We're in this very mobile world. The tools are out there. They're available. You just got to try them. And finally, be bold and experiment intelligently. So the URL for this group is tiny.cc/51915. You can always join that group later. There'll be kind of an ongoing discussion, or you can reach me directly at cotap.me/Brian. This is essentially the equivalent of a phone number. And that is about it. So I've guess we'll move on to Q&A, and I'm going to pass the baton over to Anal.
Hi, everyone. So before we get into Q&A, I wanted to, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Totango, just give you a quick overview on who we are and what we do, and then we'll go straight into the Q&A for Brian. So for those of you unfamiliar with Totango, we are the leader in customer success and user engagement for online subscription services. We basically help companies like Cotap and cloud vendors take a data-driven approach to reducing churn and driving customer acquisition, onboarding, renewals, and upsells. But from what you've heard from Brian, we also help with product improvement, free trial conversion, you name it. In addition to Cotap, we have a quick list of some of our customers that range from large and small companies in the software business. So quickly, I'm going to challenge myself to tell you about Totango in 3 minutes. And number one is the most important, I think, which is we tell you which customer needs your attention and why. What does that mean? So as Brian talked about with Dan on the phone, he knows exactly who's needing some attention and why, which is, has their engagement dropped? Are they not seeing the results that they wanted? And we let you know that you should reach out to them. And how do we do this? We do this through a variety of ways. Oops, sorry, I noticed that the font messed up on that one. I apologize. One, we listen. So what we do is we go in the new application, listen to all of the signals of customer health. So are people engaged with your application? Are they actually using the modules in the way they're supposed to? Are they adding new users? We take all of that information and present it to you in a contextual manner. So it's not just like here's a barrage of information. Here is the relevant information at the right time so that you can engage with your customers and impact their health or impact their success with your product. So you get visibility into your customers' engagement and results with your products, and we call that customer success intelligence. So what this means is we basically monitor the customer's health, get reasons for why the health is changing. You can track very specific actions. I loved Brian's example of how they use active list or list capability to break down which customers are doing really well with the Cotap application and how can they use that to reach out to them in a more contextual manner. I'm guessing you CSMs out there, if you're trying to reach out to your customers and be like, hey, I noticed that, maybe check-in coming up or whatnot, it's much more of a meaningful conversation when you can actually say, hey, I've noticed that, a majority of your team is using the application the right way, but there's a few people who haven't really embraced this particular module, and we think that they would find it very helpful. Maybe I can set up a training. So we allow you to see all of those things so you can have these contextual conversations. And then we help you take, as I said, intelligent actions or be more productive. And that's something that we refer to as intelligent workflow. So what you can do is you can get all of this information. So if you have if you're managing a portfolio of say 200 accounts, you're not going to reach out to all 200 accounts in one day. So productivity is all about letting you know within 10 minutes which are the accounts that you should reach out to, why, what are the particularly salient pieces of information that you need to reach out to them, and then you can do that. And there's a couple ways that we enable you to do that. Bear with me a minute more. One is one-to-one. So I don't know how many of the folks on the call actually do one-on-one emails or interactions with their customers, calls, check-ins, etc. But we also have the one-to-many interaction element built in. So again, if you have a large portfolio of customers that you're managing, you can utilize automated nurture campaigns. So Brian, to use your example, instead of having it go straight to one of your AEs or CSMs, you could also have an automated email that says, hey, great, you're using Cotap a lot. Here's the next level of functionality to help you get further. So it's customizable really to fit your role and responsibilities, and it helps teams assign and prioritize what they need to do in a simple way. And then as Brian has mentioned and what Cotap is all about, we really think that you need to have information available to you wherever you are. And so one of the things that we're really proud of is our mobile app. I use it all the time. And this surfaces everything that you see in the desktop version, but in a much more mobile-friendly way. And you can set up tasks and touch points through it. We actually won an award for it recently with SIA Next Gen Awards. So now that you have an overview of Totango, if you have any more questions, please chat them to us. Or if you want to learn more, feel free to reach out and request for more information. And I'm just going to move it over to the Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Anal, and thank you, Brian. Anal, I think you presented Totango in less than 3 minutes, but that was great. So we have some time for everyone to go ahead and submit their questions. You can either do it in the bottom left corner in the chat window on your screen, or go ahead and use Cotap, the messaging thread that we have going on. We do have a few questions, and so let me go ahead and open those up. So Brian, one of the first ones for you is, does everyone in Cotap have access to Totango, or is it just your customer success team?
Everyone on, let's see, so both sales and CSM have access to Totango, and a few of our product team members have access to Totango. That's how they made those product insights.
Great. Okay. And then let me do this rolling. Does each CSM also have a Salesforce login?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, we kind of over-provision technology to our employees because it's all part of that spirit of experimentation. Oftentimes we'll try something, and if it doesn't work, we'll move on to something else. But when something does work, we want to get it into the hands of as many people as will benefit from it. Great.
And then we have a couple questions in the ReadyTalk app. So one of them is, do you have SLAs set up for your CSM about how long it takes them to respond to a customer request?
That's a good question. We don't, but we're pretty instant because of Cotap. When I was at Yammer, we tinkered around with creating an SLA. I think that's kind of like a canary in the coal mine for a bigger problem. If you need to be creating SLAs for your employees, I think that may indicate a lack of trust. And I think there are better ways of solving that than instituting an SLA.
Got it. Good. It's good to get your perspective on that. Another question is, do you find that your CSMs use the mobile app and the web app differently, or to accomplish the same tasks?
I'm guessing we're talking about the Totango app, and yeah, I would say they do, and mobile and web apps should be used differently. So generally speaking, I think mobile is about notifications and quick information gathering, which the Totango app is great for. And then the web app is a little bit more focused on, you've got a keyboard in front of you, you can type messages, for instance, you can make notes about the accounts. So I would say when they're at their desk, it's more detailed work, and when they're on mobile, it's quicker coordination or just being responsive. A lot of times you can figure something out from your phone, and maybe you need to take care of the entire thing when you get back to your desk, but you can at least get the process started while you're on your phone.
Great. Okay, and then I think this is a question for Anal. How does Totango determine health?
Great question. So we believe that health should be made up of a variety of elements, and we've broken them down into 5. And I wish I had a slide that I've created up here because I think it would really illustrate it well for you. But there's three sort of what we call 100% customer coverage elements, which is you can get this information about all of your customers. And one is are they achieving the business outcomes that they want with your product? So customer renewals, customer health, all of that is why do I buy Cotap? Why do I buy Totango? Because I want to achieve a specific goal, whether it's reducing churn with my customers or having better communication. So are they actually doing that? Number two is, are they engaging with your product? So we look at a variety of factors of usage as well as engagement with specific applications, because if someone's not using your application or if they're not actually engaging with it, that probably is not a good sign. Three is service utilization. Are they actually utilizing the licenses that they've purchased, or are they utilizing the logins that they have and whatnot? And then we think it's also really important to have, in addition to the 100% customer coverage elements, what we call limited but subjective coverage, which is around customer satisfaction. So if you have survey information that you want to incorporate, we can do that, as well as support and other information such as ERP information. Is there some major support issue element there? So we take those 5 things and we allow you to create that health sort of weighting depending on what you believe is most important for your business, and we also suggest to you what that may be. But that's really the way we determine health.
Great, thanks, Anal. Another question, Brian, for you about Cotap, more about your own technology is, could you talk about security? Any concerns about using mobile communications, especially since it's on personal devices, or especially if you exchange company-sensitive information?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've taken great care to make Cotap very secure. I think these days that's becoming increasingly important. Things like, for all of you who are familiar with Deflategate, the Patriots issue that just happened, a lot of the information was actually gathered through unsecured text conversations. You have the Sony hack where a lot of information was exposed. So we take it very seriously. All messaging is encrypted on Cotap. We're HIPAA compliant. But most of the time it's not too much of an issue because businesses recognize that the alternative, which is what's happening now, is highly insecure. Things like iMessage, WhatsApp, WeChat. Using those tools for mobile messaging is akin to using your personal email for work. It seems like absurd, but that's essentially what we're doing with mobile messaging today. So most of the time it's kind of, we're like a breath of fresh air, but it is always good to go through how we make Cotap secure, and we've taken great care to make sure that that's a really robust part of our product.
Great, and I think we'll just go ahead and take a couple more questions. Has your health model changed over time at Cotap?
Yeah, it definitely has, and I would say that's an area that we can continue to improve on. It does a good job at alerting us when things have changed from good to poor. But I think we can do more on creating different health scores based on different parts of the funnel. Like a customer should have different criteria for what is considered healthy or not than a prospect. So that's one area that we're looking to improve upon over the next 3 to 6 months.
Great. Okay, and then last question, and I think it's a great question, is what sort of results have you seen since using Totango? Do you have any either soft metrics or quantifiable success metrics? Better trial conversions, less churn.
Yeah, I would say the number one metric is conversations with prospects. So we've quadrupled the number of conversations that we're having with freemium users because of Totango's ability to lead us to the people who are most likely to talk to us. So there was a time early on in Cotap when we were reaching out to every new user. That's just not only is it not doable now, but it's also a terrible way of interacting with your customers. It's very intrusive. So by using Totango and it telling us which users are most likely to want to talk to us, we've been able to significantly increase the number of conversations. And And that was one of those big leaks in our bucket that Totango was able to help us patch.
Great, thank you. All right, I just want to thank both Brian and Anal for joining us today, and to all of our audience participants. If you have any questions you'd like to ask specifically about Totango, you can email us at info@totango.com or visit our website, totango.com. And then as Brian said, I'll hop back to the end. If you'd like to learn more about Cotap or ask him more about his customer success team and processes, go ahead and Cotap him as you see it on the screen. And we'll go ahead and record this webinar and make it available on demand and email it out to you guys today. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and end the meeting, and have a great day. Thanks, everyone.